Hello everybody and welcome to TOT&HAM, the show weekly where James and I talk about Tottenham and West Ham respectively, our beloved clubs. My name's Serge.
My name is James.
I did say that you were James, didn't I, a second ago? For those that have been listening to the other bits of content that we put out this week, you'll know what is about to happen. Go on then. I'll just sit back, relax, make myself comfortable.
Prepare yourself for the biggest rant in Planet FPL history, I think.
It's not that bad, surely.
Yeah, it's worse.
Why?
Regular listeners will know that I said on numerous occasions last season, we only played well in 2 league games. Chelsea at home, at Wembley, and Everton away at Goodison in December. When you factor that into consideration, this has been coming for a long time. And I've been very patient in expecting a turn. Obviously, new players coming in like Ndombele, who unfortunately is the only one who's been able to play so far this season. And he's shit, by the way, on what I've seen so far. Here you go. This is how this is about to go down.
I don't think he's that bad.
Right, he can't even run properly.
Okay.
I'm not sure at the moment
if he's Phoebe from Friends.
If he's a Musa Dembele replacement or if he's just like Bakayoko and Fred Mark 2 or 3 respectively. He looks good for 10-15 minutes in stages of games, and for the other 75 minutes goes missing.
He scored a few goals, mine.
He got dragged off after 45 minutes at Brighton on Saturday. I'd have taken him off after 10 minutes. It was fucking awful.
What was it? Missing tackles, positionally in the wrong place, not able to pass the ball, or all of the above?
Non-existent. Probably can only play in a central midfield 3 at the moment. He turns well on the ball. He's good at passing between the lines. I don't think he's up to standard for the Premier League at the moment. He is not the player I saw play for Lyon at Manchester City last season.
Is he fit?
He's just one problem.
Do you think he's fit?
No, in fairness, he's probably not at the moment. And obviously, there is plenty of scope for him to improve. Yeah. He's not the sole problem here. Although it does relate to a bigger problem. Thinking back, I did a lot of soul searching on Saturday because as bad as the results were at Colchester and Bayern, or obviously at home to Bayern, the Brighton performance was the worst of the lot. Because the one thing I could always look at Spurs and go, yeah, do you know what? Been shit today. But I couldn't fault their effort. Even at Colchester, wouldn't fault their effort. All right, the heads went down in the last 10 minutes against Bayern. But for half hour, we gave one of the best teams on the planet a proper football game. Okay. And we're very unlucky to go in at half time behind. Obviously, the second half becomes a catastrophe.
Yeah, there's more the last 15, 20 minutes, but really, more Saturday, even than the second half.
I know you kind of took it as a pinch of salt. I wasn't joking yesterday when I said 3-0 was an unfair score. Brighton should have won by more. 1-11, every member of our side on paper is better than theirs. This isn't a Brighton player that would get in our team. Completely outfought, outplayed, and worryingly, possibly they're getting coached better.
Okay.
Spurs have, over the years, done quite well to replace players when they've left. If you think about when the key one to think of here is Modric, and how, although it took years to develop the player that we wanted, we bought Musa Dembele the same summer that Modric went. Fuck, I wish we could have ever played them two together in the same midfield with a holding player behind them. Wow.
Yeah.
Dembele was beginning to lose his legs a little bit. I understand why he went. He's gone and got his money day for his payoff, and left very amicably. And Spurs got a 10 million fee for a player that was going to be out of contract a few months later. But he's left a huge hole in that team. What Dembele gave us was drive from midfield and ball domination.
You called him the doctor, didn't you? I remember.
Yeah, it was
Give
the
him
doctor.
The ball and everything gets better.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I used to call him the doctor. Give him the ball, everything would get better. And in the midfield area, particularly at the moment, there was a huge issue. I said last week that I would have stuck Eric Dyer back in the team. I was pleased when I saw him in the team. Within about 10 minutes, I realised I was completely wrong because his legs are gone. Looked like he just can't get around the pitch anymore in the way, say, like Declan Rice does for you.
Yeah.
Just can't do it. Wanyama's gone as a footballer completely. So there's a massive problem in the midfield area. Sissoko's done a job, but as I said on the main problem yesterday, it's systematic of how far we've fallen. When we're going shit, we can't play without Sissoko. Harry Winks is a very good footballer. He does things that other people in the squad can't do in terms of his acceptance of the ball, the way he turns around people, but he doesn't have the creativity to unlock any doors in there. And as the footballer of a pairing, it remains a problem, because then you're relying on the people in front of them to be creative. Talking of creative forces, Christian Eriksen can get the fuck out of my club.
Okay.
This is where we're at.
I don't, when I look at the Spurs squad, I don't see a bunch of troublemakers there. Like potentially the likes of a Pogba, for example, or Sanchez at Arsenal. There are no players in your squad that I think, have a bad attitude potentially. I mean, I know Eriksen's been angling for a move and he didn't get it, but he hasn't necessarily downed tools in a real public display or not turned up to training or anything like that. So when you have a lack of effort or lack of commitment from the players, that's really interesting, because sometimes that stems from unhappiness within the squad and disharmony, but you don't really have the type of squad or players that are troublemakers. So I don't know why is the question. Why would you have that kind of attitude and fallout from people?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily... Saturday was the first time I really thought, they're just not in this. As in, there's always been something that saved them, be it the quality on the pitch or the effort would get them through games. There were a number of players who I think within that squad, and this is why I put this out in the People's Poll on Monday, who have peaked and it's finished. Not as in their careers are finished, but Spurs have already seen the best
days.
of them.
Harry Kane.
So Harry Kane might be one, and I stuck up for him a lot and will continue to do so.
Captain's armband next
week. We certainly will be captain with Lloris's injury.
Yeah.
I will always stick up for Harry because he'll get the goals and people expect him to, I don't know, score braces like every single week because he had the incredible 60 plus goals in 2017. He's adapting as a footballer, and I think it's part why we keep reverting to this idea with Son up front. Son is a wonderful footballer. I think he's mentally weak. I think when the going gets tough, he goes missing.
Okay.
I don't think Lucas Moura is one of those players, but he doesn't have the quality or the power of goal scoring form that Son has.
Okay.
Dele Alli, I know Tom Campbell and a few others wanted to ask, Paul at Sky Planet FPL, wanted to ask me the thoughts on Dele Alli. I don't want to be too critical on Dele because he's obviously been injured and he hardly played any football the whole of this calendar year. Will he get back into that team? At the moment, anybody showing any grain of form or footballing ability at the moment is going to get in that team, and Dele might do that. However, it's another one I've said numerous times. Dele Alli is a better footballer without the ball. Mm-hmm. He is not as good as he thinks he is. Dele believes, I think, that he can be a midfielder that can run the game in the way a Modric could or Dembele has for us. And to compare him to those two in a deeper lying midfield position, he's not. The only real strength Dele has is the way he arrives in the box. Think of that 15, 16, 16, 17 seasons when him and Kane together were forming something incredible.
Well, Dele was part of the World Cup team and squad, right? And he was
got a lot of criticism. Him and Lingard.
He was an important part of it. Either side of Harry Kane, I would argue. But there's so many young players that have now come in and you could say have overtaken him. Madison, Mount, Hudson-Odoi. Yep. They're all putting their hand up in the pecking order ahead of Dele Alli at the moment. So, but I agree with you. You can't criticise him too much with the lack of football that he's had. But yeah, he's never come across as anyone with a particularly positive body language. Like, he's not a big smiler. He's always got that kind of look on his face. He's a cocky shit.
He's the sort of player, if he didn't play for my team, I would hate.
Yeah.
I get why he is disliked by, and he's a cheat as well. We'll dive. As will most footballers. We've got a massive problem at centre-half as well because Alderweireld, rather unnoticingly, has never really recovered from the nerve injury he got at West Brom back in 2016 after incredible opening season. Definitely lost a couple of yards of pace. And now you look at him, look at some of the goals against Bayern and the way Connolly turned inside him for the third Brighton goal at the weekend. That's not the Toby I know. No. Jan's struggling, but trying.
Sanchez.
The fullbacks.
Sanchez hasn't really broken in and made it his own, has he?
But then if you look at him positionally for the Newcastle goal in game week 3, you're like, this kid's still got so much to learn. He obviously offers the pace, but he doesn't have the distribution of the other two.
No.
And when you're struggling with ball retention and creativity, Alderweireld and Vertonghen actually do offer us. I spoke after the Palace game about how well they switched the ball to the flanks. We haven't seen it in a game since. When Foyt's back and might make a difference, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets thrown in at centre half, probably alongside Vertonghen. This is what I meant about like players peaking above too soon. So like Ali, I think like his best days might have already gone. That
would be a real like damning indictment.
You're right what you're saying in comparison to Maddison and Mount. Like Dele Alli don't get near that England team now.
No,
and at 19, if somebody had come in and bid 150 million for him after that first season and bought him, you'd have gone, well, that's a massive blow for Spurs to lose Dele Alli.
Yeah. What's he now? 21, 22?
I mean, he's still young. He's 23, I think.
But the same age as Raheem Sterling, give or take. Sterling's tearing up trees week in, week out.
You can see the constant progress in Sterling, I think.
Of course, exactly.
Like we said, Ali's been...
He's not as young as he was.
Ali's been very unfortunate with injuries. I knew on Saturday, on the first goal, forget Lloris's mistake, I've spoke again many times about Lamela being the best presser in the team, and we don't press like we used to. Maybe that's because the energy in there and the way Kane from the front can't press like he used to has affected the team. Watch Lamela go and track Gross, put in a half-hearted tackle, and as Gross turns inside, he just lets him cross the thing. That's 3 minutes into the game. That's not the Lamelo I know. For all his criticisms of his final pass or his overindulgence on the ball, never questioned his work rate, and that was an alarming sign immediately into the game at the moment. And I've got a theory on Pochettino that he's struggling at this moment to adapt around the same squad of players who can't do what they did for him 3 years ago. And the reason they can't is because they can't play with the intensity or the pressing off the ball that they used to. And that's why I think he really wanted an overhaul of the squad at the moment. And to add to that, he's improved. Nearly every player in that squad, he's improved. From goalkeeper through to Harry Kane. Look at the work he's done with fullbacks. But there's an argument that actually he needs a refresh of constantly having young players and developing them to get the most out of them. Whereas a lot of these guys like your Eriksen's, Alderweireld's and all them, it's gone a bit stale.
So when you listen to a lot of phone-ins and conversations and debates about what's going wrong at a club, it always falls into like 3 buckets. You've got the ownership, you've got the manager, and you've got the players. You've gone in hard on the players. I'd say semi-hard. Like obviously they could be putting in a little bit more effort. Poch, I think, is safe in the sense that he's not going to get fired and he's not going to leave because of the legacy of good work that he's done. I've listened to a lot of callers on phone-ins and stuff that have actually gone quite hard on Daniel Levy, saying that, look, he's the highest paid chairman in world football. I don't know if that's actually true, but he's going to be up there in the top 2 or 3. And ever since he joined the club, he's been making decisions to benefit himself potentially rather than the club. I think there was one caller that was particularly interesting. I can't remember what radio station, but it was Daniel Levy started, and then he fired George Graham 4 days before the cup semi-final against Arsenal, something along those lines. And there on in, he's been making a lot of financial decisions, but not always club-based decisions. Your wage structure has come under a lot of criticism. The likes of Kyle Walker leaving, I mean, at the end of the day, he's tripling his money, right? He's surprisingly not getting in the England squad. I suppose injuries worried now. Pep was saying about his virus.
Not playing well at the moment, in honesty.
No. After that bullet run on day one where he skinned Cresswell, he hasn't done nothing since. But he tripled his money moving on, right? And so the wage structure is now becoming restrictive for Spurs in hiring talent and replacing players, and that stems from Daniel Levy. What about him? You're a football guy where it's all about the pitch, so I do understand how you like to...
but I see the bigger picture. The first thing is just to cover off Graham, Levy wasn't in charge then. It was Martin Buckler.
Fair play.
who came in for ENIC originally and got rid of George Graham. I'm not saying Levy didn't have anything to do. He wasn't yet chairman at that stage in 2000.
So whoever phoned into whatever radio station it was
incorrect. That's fine. I disagree with what you say about his personal decisions. I think every decision he makes is in the best interest of Tottenham Hotspur.
Okay.
Quite often he gets a lot of those decisions wrong.
Okay.
Now, there were a load of stuff behind the scenes, like the training ground and obviously the stadium, which were he to walk out tomorrow, is his legacy. People say that training ground is the best training ground in the world.
Yep.
So, you know, Brazil will go and train there and stuff. People are using it. It's like a hotel accommodation on top of a training ground now with 12 plus pitches or whatever. It's an amazing complex, apparently. Yep. And the stadium speaks for itself. I would have always preferred to stay at Old White Hart Lane, but it's an amazing stadium for a modern purpose-built football stadium. So that's his legacy. And that's obviously restricted us in a lot of ways, like it restricted Arsenal with the move to the Emirates. Arsenal, on reflection, did amazing to stay in the Champions League as long as they did with obviously the money that came into City and Chelsea and Liverpool being in and around it as well. I think Levy will always look for the best deal. For example, perfect case scenario here. So Lo Celso's in on loan. But it's already agreed that he's going to sign next summer for 55 million. Now, Levy Pochettino wanted that deal done earlier. By Levy waiting and basically colluding with Real Betis to rip off Paris Saint-Germain for 20 million, Betis feel like they got their 75 million worth and Tottenham got a deal that was 20 million cheaper than the asking price.
Sure.
But it cost Lo Celso
a month's
pre-season with Tottenham. And obviously now he's injured. And he might well add a dimension to the team when he's back fit. But he's going to be a way off. You won't see the best of him till 2020 at the earliest. Or Sessegnon injured as well. Unfortunate. I don't even know if he's a good defender, but I'll put him straight in the team at left back because we have such a huge issue in the fullback areas. In terms of responsibility for this, be it players, owner, manager, the answer is all of them. All of them.
This is one where it's fairly evenly split.
In the immediate, Pochettino is the one that has to look at himself the hardest, because if he's not motivating those players, and based on what I saw on Saturday, that's now a question to seriously ask, then it's his responsibility. And if he can't motivate that group, it's gone for him. And there isn't a recovery, because he's not going to sell 15 footballers.
No.
And therefore, it would need to be changed. And he is the most important person at that football club, and I do not want him to leave, because I know that given time, he will get this right, in spite of, and I've been questioning for probably 9 months now, some of his tactical decisions I don't agree with. But if it wasn't for Pochettino, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would just still be same old Spursy, whereas it's become a shock how alarmingly it's fallen.
He's taken you consistently into that top four with limited resources. So when you do build something like that, it can be a house of cards where things can collapse.
He's worked miracles.
It is hard. I'm with you. I'm never one for chopping and changing managers. I think people do it far too often. Poch definitely shouldn't be going. When you're in a negative spiral, it's very hard to snap out. And it's so important for you guys now to score first in games. I don't know what the stats are like. That don't seem to help us. Well, the thing with the Brighton game was I felt like, if they scored first, and which they did, then they had the momentum and they could carry it through and your heads kind of drop. The same for City now as well. I think because of the loss of Lloris and your vulnerabilities in the fullback areas, people can get at you now. And same for City. I fear City because of the amount of goals they can score, whereas Spurs are not as prolific potentially as City are. So you think, you know what, we're going to have a go at these, and what else have we got to lose? The results we're seeing in the last half of last season and the first 8 game weeks of this season, all of us are getting a bit brave. The West Hams, Leicesters, Burnleys, Palace, everyone's like, fuck you, we'll have a go, top six. And it's making it harder. I like it from a footballing point of view, but now you've got the weakness in the fullbacks and Lloris is out. you're going to have to score 2 or 3 to win a game because you'll concede a couple.
There ain't going to be many clean sheets.
No, so you're already on a negative mindset, and when you concede early and first, you're like, shit, here we go again.
I say there won't be many clean sheets. There probably won't be enough clean sheets to get us back into a race to finish in the top 4.
No.
Because the only thing I would say, in spite of how bad this all feels right now, we're 3 points behind the top 4.
Yeah.
We've got a good fixture coming up next at home to Watford. In the Champions League, we got battered by Bayern, but if we beat Red Star Belgrade twice and Olympiacos at home, we'll be through before we even play Bayern Munich again. So from that point of view, like, the season's still up for grabs. The problem is I look at it and I go, Leicester are better than us, Chelsea are better than us, and Arsenal are probably better than us as well.
I just feel like that with the Spurs squad, because it's been together for so long, there's a better togetherness. And so I trust the Spurs players and Poch to turn it around way more than I'd potentially trust Ole and the United players, for example. I don't feel like they're a squad that's been through
United's
thick and
a different
thin.
podcast, and we've done that.
Of course. But it's like looking at the clubs that are in crisis. You look at Marco Silva and his Everton squad, for example. You guys have been through thick and thin together. I feel like the squad can galvanise around. Look, it's only 5 months ago you're in the fucking Champions League final.
In terms of results, this isn't actually Pochettino's worst spell. We beat City. We were the first team to beat Guardiola when he come in 2016. City had won every game. We played them game week 7 or 8. We beat them 2-0 at home and were lauded for this 4-1 formation that we beat them 2-0 and we should have beaten by a lot more. And that put us second in the league going into an international break. We didn't win another league game for about 8 weeks. We lost Champions League games. Pochettino was resting players in the Champions League. We were losing those games. We drew, I think, about 4 or 5 league games in a row. And there was a point then when I think there were a lot of questions in terms of, was the season before when we challenged Leicester and actually finished on less points than AVB's Bale season, was it ever really that good? Now, we ended up finishing that season on 86 points. So, yes, he can turn it around because, trust me, at that point in that season, Christian Eriksen needed hooking out the team. Dele Alli wasn't playing well and was also struggling with fitness. Heung-min Son looked like a player was going to be sold in January. And 3-4 months later, they looked... There was a spell in March, April, 4 or 5 months after that, we looked like the best team in the league. So can he turn it round?
Of course he can.
Yes, I think he needs energy back in that squad and is not a quick fix for it. Personally, I would like to now see him go to a 4-3-3 and have Son and Lucas pick up positions similar to what Salah and Mane do for Liverpool, and have Kane be able to drop into similar directions to what Firmino does for Liverpool, and probably play a midfield 3 that would include Eriksen and Ali. And you might think that's too over-attacking. It has worked. It's been done before when we beat Liverpool 4-1 at Wembley and destroyed them in the first half. Eriksen and Ali both played as central midfielders in a 3. We need creativity, movement and pace, all those 3 things in the team at the moment to disguise our frailties. I think that would be the best way of going about it. I don't think Pochettino will do it, but I also know that he knows a lot more than me.
He listened to the last podcast and lined up Sissoko right back and Ndombele. So
if we line up with that at home to Watford, I'm applying for the job.
Yeah, well, what chief?
Having said that, the way I would
the
way I would have lined up at Brighton was basically the same as what Pochettino did, and we got battered. So it wasn't the solution.
No. All right, enough Spurs. What about West Ham?
What about them?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't got like a rant at heart. I think the fans were quite on the team's back on Saturday.
Why?
Slow play, like just very pedestrian and no urgency and sideways.
But we spoke about that maybe being because of Palace.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it was. I think overall, if you look at the performances of the players, we're getting a bit of an identity now, but there are a few players that I'd point out that I think are actually like stepping up quite well. I mean, Halle has been great all season. If you look at his stats on aerial duels, for example, he's killing it. He's like 50% of aerial duels. He's always winning knockdowns and head downs, and he's a real presence. But he's not going to score 20 goals this season. 15, I think, will be his kind of limit.
Be a good return.
He is a good striker and consistent, so I do like him. Felipe Anderson, I think, is proving far and away our best player for a lot of reasons. He's quick, he's rapid.
Crapid.
No, he's not crapid. He offers an out ball. He's always looking to take players on. He's always got a little trick or a flick, which sometimes goes wrong, but generally he gets around players. His through balls and his passing is really on point, and he's the most direct player we have. I just think he doesn't get the credit for it because maybe 2 or 3 times out of every 10 it doesn't work out, but it does work out 7 times, and he was the best player in the second half, in my opinion, on the pitch.
Does he have days off sometimes?
Yes, but I think that's probably the team will play badly as well. I think he needs to take on that role of, you know what, when the chips are down, like Steven Gerrard used to do for Liverpool. When the chips were down, what's happening? We'll carry on with the audio because we've got audio. When the chips are down, Gerrard used to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and be the one that steps up. Because we've got Lanzini and Anderson and sometimes Fornals or whatever, who is our number 10 talisman that will pick the ball up off the holding midfielders and drive forward and whatever? I don't know, but he is the one that should be taking that responsibility because he's...
Not Lanzini, no?
No, I think Anderson's better than Lanzini in my opinion. Lanzini is
different players, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Rice is interesting. Rice has developed so much that it used to be a 2 of Rice and Noble. It's just Rice now. He's doing all the defensive work he's doing himself, and he's still getting about here, there, and everywhere. If he can't make a tackle, fuck it, I'll handball it. But he's getting about. So that's actually a bit of a change in formation. Noble's getting further forward. Where we used to be like 4-2-3-1, it's actually 4-1-4-1 now, much more, which you'd want because you want more attacking players up there. So Rice is giving us the ability to play 4-1-4-1 because of the way he's getting about the pitch.
Does that restrict from an output return for the 2 wide players, Anderson and Yarmolenko? Is that hindering them a bit? Which might sound silly because obviously Yarmolenko had scored 3 and 4 previously.
I don't think so. I think that they're still playing well. Fredericks had a good game, bombing up and down the wing a little bit better, getting some crosses in. He got a few good crosses in. He's still going to take a little bit of time, but he was not as crapid as he has been in the past. I honestly think if we'd had Fabi in goal on the weekend,
just about what I was going to ask you. What did the keeper look like? You can't blame him on either goal, mate.
I mean, he made that great save. A good save from McCarthy's shot. It was a nice height.
Comfy save.
It was one that looked better than it potentially was, but he did make it. He still made that save. The penalty completely went the wrong way, and the last goal he didn't have a chance, but he did all right. But yeah, we need Fabi back, really.
It's on Tottenham, there is a big goalkeeper crisis.
Yeah, exactly. I just think, you know what? If you'd offered me 12 points from 8 games at the start of the season, that's 1.5 points per game. I would have probably taken it. It's not far off your 2 points per game. This weekend gone, it was an unfortunate penalty with Decky flapping his hands and that marginal call. If we'd have held out at 1-0 for even 10 minutes, the game would have been different because we could have hit him on the counter a little bit better. But I do get where the fans are coming from. We need to play with more pace and just attack quicker. The debate that we were having in the terraces and the stands was when we have the ball, I don't know if it's Pellegrini's tactics to slow the game down, because we do pass it around the back a little bit, sideways, here, there, everywhere, trying to take the pace out of the game. And I don't know if that's Pellegrini's tactics or that's just the players not being urgent enough with getting the ball forward. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. It's like control the tempo. We were saying, does Pellegrini teach them to control the tempo?
Something Spurs really struggle with in terms of pace of a game quite a lot. When we have games like the Newcastle game where we're too slow and ponderous. There was a period a couple of years ago where Spurs perfected the balance. And what I mean by that is they would have 5-10 minutes of incessant pressure in terms of pressing with and without the ball. And then you can't sustain that for 90 minutes. No. We'd mastered a point towards the end of 16-17 where we'd do that for 10 minutes and we would slow the game down for 5 minutes. Literally and then we'd go again. and mastered it. Because you can't have that pressure for 90 minutes. And the only way to relieve it is ball retention. The problem Tottenham have got now is don't press the ball.
You can't keep the ball.
Can't keep the ball.
City, when they're playing, it's just one touch, move. They've always got an option and they always make the pass. We'll make 5, 6, 7, 8 passes and then fuck it up. And then as soon as you've lost the ball, you're turning and you're facing your own goal and trying to track backwards, and that's where we get screwed over. We don't have the ability with ball retention to make 20 or 30 passes, and as and when we do, you can see the goal we scored on the weekend.
I was going to say it's within the squad though, because
100%.
It was a shame that the move slowed down a bit, but
when
the
Anderson
start of it was incredible.
He kind of took it wide and slowed down and triggered back, and then he picked up pace again. But what it was when Rice got it in the middle, he had the option to go out to the right wing. I don't know if it was Yarmolenko or Fredericks that was on the right wing, but instead he played the direct pass straight through the middle to Lanzini, who then clipped it through, and that was the pass that changed the direction of the move. Because looking at it, I was like, go wide, and he didn't. He went straight into the
It's
edge
the
of the box.
pass that all the top teams, I'm not including you in that.
Yeah.
All the top teams are looking for all the time is the pass between the lines. That pass that you speak of there, that is far more dangerous to a side that's dominating a game rather than just shunting it. The Everton problem, as Sean at Spirit Blues would call it, where you're just going from side to side.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to be brave and try and break those lines. And Dombele is a player who's the most likely player, ironically, in the Spurs squad, who has that pass in him. He's just not showing any other qualities as a footballer at the moment.
Yeah, I just think from the result at the weekend, you can't dwell too much on it. We played okay. We do need to play with more urgency. But now, look, our next game's away at Everton, right? Everton are under pressure, so they've got to come at us. They're really going to want to have 3 points from that game. So is that going to open up space for us? We went and won there last season away from home quite early as well. So I'm hoping that happens again this year. I'm fascinated. It's the early kickoff on the Saturday, so it'll be on BT for us to watch. So I'm going to be watching that with real interest. If we go there and win, then I think we can just put Palace to one side and move on, and then look forward to 2 home games against Sheffield United and Newcastle United straight after.
Opportunities again. Don't let these pass.
We can't. But ultimately, I'm seeing progress from the team. That's what I'm happy about.
You must look at United, Spurs, and I think you can include Arsenal in that. And you must think there's an opportunity there
to get into top 4.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's going to be hard. You know, a few seasons ago,
even being realistic. Okay, top 6.
Oh yeah. I think we do, but having Fabi out for 2 months is going to make that difficult. But I think it's a real possibility.
All right, rant over.
There we go. That's wrapping up Tot&HAM. For those of you Spurs fans, West Ham fans, and any other football fans that wanted a bit more insight into West Ham and mainly Spurs today,
I'm now going to go and curl up into a ball and cry.
There you go. So thanks for tuning in. We've got so much content still coming out for you this week. Yesterday we had the main Nightmare on FPL Street podcast, as well as the worst FPL 15 that you could have picked in Game Week 1 rundown, the Planet Flops. Use the hashtag on the Twitter. And on top of that, we still have Sky Fantasy Football for you this week. We have Clash of the Correspondents with @the_Tinkerman Dara coming on to talk about a bit of the Championship and stats and Fulham. And then we have a second podcast Q&A special Thursday. We'll be putting a tweet out sometime in the morning for you to ask your questions to go. And yeah, that's a ton of stuff. Any other special bits and pieces might be popping out as well, but keep your eyes peeled on Twitter for that.
Acknowledged.
There we go. That's enough. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child. Come on, you Spurs. Please, for fuck's
Come on,
sake.
you Irons.